Have you ever known your partner loves you, but you still don't feel the love from them? Or maybe the other way around, and you're doing everything you can to show love to somebody else, but they still feel unappreciated or question your love for them. Sometimes the problem isn't if there's love at all, but it's the language that you're communicating love to each other. Hello, friends, and welcome back to my channel here at True Reality Life, where we talk about the true realities of the life around us beautiful, ugly, and everything in between. My name is Amber, your mental health and wellness mentor. Last week, we talked about the 5 love languages, what they are, and what they look like in your everyday practice within marriage and towards yourself. But this week, I want to dive into determining what your love language is. If you haven't figured out yet what that may be, we're going to touch on a few clues to look out for in your everyday life to figure out what your primary love language is. Because if you don't know how you naturally receive love, you could go your entire life without ever feeling loved, even if you're surrounded by people who truly love you. And once you understand what your love language is, or your loved ones, especially your spouse, it can change every relationship within your marriage, your kids, your friendships, and especially with yourself. So, I want to start off by just briefly going over what each love language is that we went further into in our last video. So, the first one is words of affirmation, which can be encouragement or just a verbal appreciation of somebody. And the next one is acts of service. So, doing something that's helpful or supportive of somebody. And then my favorite, which is quality time, my love language, which is all about undivided attention and focusing on connection with somebody. The next one is gift giving, which can be just a thoughtful gift or remembering specific dates for somebody. And then the last one, physical touch, which is affection or closeness with somebody. So if you want more details of what each of these love languages are and what they look like within your marriage or within yourself, how you can practice each love language, please feel free to go watch the previous video all about the 5 love languages that originated from the concept by Gary Chapman in his book, The 5 Love Languages. So, starting off with the clues to look out for in your everyday life, something to reflect on. This first one is starting off pretty heavy. So, I just want to start off by taking a few deep breaths and just take a minute, get in the right mindset, because this first concept is just very emotionally heavy. Even as I was writing it, it hit home in a lot of points. So we just want to take this nice and slow as if we're in therapy together. The first point of reflection to determine what your love language is to figure out and reflect on how were you loved when you were growing up? What did love look like from your parents? How did they show you their love? And was that fulfilling for you? Did it make you feel loved and appreciated as a child? Or were there things that you were maybe still hoping for, wishing for from them? And those are some key points to look at. So, for each point of reflection, I want to go through examples of what each thing looks like for each of the 5 love languages. So, just some examples for this topic of what love looked like for you growing up from your parents. We're just going to run through examples of things they may have done or said to show you their love to see if that resonates with you. The first one is words of affirmation. Did your parents consistently encourage you? Whether that was in school or sports, they were constantly uplifting you. You can do it. I'm so proud of you. Or was it maybe on the opposite spectrum where you rarely ever heard the words, I'm proud of you? And this may resonate for a lot of us, but I want to keep going through all of these because we're going to dive into why it matters and what to look for with each of these. Because as humans, a lot of these do apply to us, but we want to pinpoint exactly which one stands out the most. So the next one is acts of service. So, did your parents show you love by doing things for you? Whether that was cooking for you, making your lunches to take to school, driving you to school instead of having to take the bus, fixing things for you, helping you problem solve, maybe helping you with your homework, things like that, that they were constantly trying to help you with something. The next one is quality time. So this one really hits home for me, so I'm just going to take this one really slow. So, did your family do family dinners together a lot? Did they have regular conversations? Perfect timing would be at the dinner table to have conversation and check up with your day. Were they present with you? If you were talking to them, were they paying attention to what you were saying and not distracted by other things? Or was it that opposite spectrum where everybody was busy and distracted and there was very little focus on you? Everybody was just focused on their self and their own needs. The next one is physical touch. So, the typical, did you get a lot of hugs, kisses, cuddles from them? Or was it rare that you ever got hugs from your parents? That one's pretty straightforward. And then the last one is gift giving or receiving of gifts. So this could be like birthday gifts. Did you get surprises? Were there a lot of holiday traditions? Can be in that kind of sense because it was intentionally thoughtful gifts or decorations or things like that. So I want you to think about, did any of these resonate with you? What in your childhood did you have or were you missing? It might be easier to write some of these things down to see, hey, I did get this, this, and this. My parents really did celebrate my birthday every year, but we didn't do family dinners all that much. Or, hey, I did get told I'm proud of you, but I never got a lot of hugs. Things like that. Just try to keep a running tab of which things you were shown and which things you weren't, because it can show you what your love language is. How to use this information to really determine what your love language is. So, most of us will continue showing love to others in the way that we were shown love growing up, and that includes towards ourselves. We're just showing the love that we were exposed to, the love that we know how to, but it's still not fulfilling. So we'll touch on that a little further in our next point of reflection. But continuing with this one of how you were loved growing up, a key factor here that may show you what your love language is thinking about the things that you didn't have growing up, the love that you craved from your parents growing up. So for me, my love language is quality time. And I think back in my childhood, and we didn't have a ton of quality time. We didn't do family dinners. If we ate together at the same time, it was in front of a TV. Nobody was ever having conversations. Nobody was genuinely asking me how my day was. If they did it, they were just expecting a good and then for me to go to my room. Everybody had their own space to exist, and it was not together. My most fond memory, my favorite memory of childhood was like having the power go out and we were actually forced to play like board games together as a family because there was no TV or anything to keep my parents distracted and entertained, so they were forced to give us attention, and that's still one of my favorite memories to this day. Even if it was only like an hour that they were giving us attention and playing board games with us. And that's kind of how I discovered that my love language is quality time, because that's where I felt most neglected as a child, is having that quality time. It was always about somebody else. It was always about my parents or my older sister. So I didn't get a whole lot of that quality time. But I do want to bring attention to people who had a childhood where they were very neglected. There may be several love languages that you may have been craving for. So you may not have had words of affirmation from your parents, or gift giving, or physical touch, or quality time, or any of the five love languages. And so you're like, well, what is my love language? I feel like all of those appeal to me. All of those I am craving. And I can relate to that in a big sense. So that's why I was very confused of what my love language was for a while. But we'll get into that in the next few points. But I just want you to start off thinking about, what is it in your childhood that you were craving the most? Or Was the way your parents were loving you very fulfilling? And what was that? What were they doing that felt most reassuring to you, that made you feel the most loved? And just to throw in a faith based perspective here, a lot of times where you may have been neglected as a child, that love that you're craving and you need to start healing, once you build that relationship with God, the ultimate father of all of us, that's usually where he meets you. He meets you where you are lacking, he meets you where you need the most love. And so if you pay attention to that as well, that can be a big key factor. So for me, I constantly feel reassurance from God to just be still in the moment and exist, and he will be there with me. And then my secondary love language is words of affirmation, so I often get reassurance of that, of you are okay, you are doing enough, you are enough. So think about that. If you have a relationship with God, be at ease that he is going to meet you where you're missing out on that love, and he will fill your cup. But we're going to keep going. So we're going to keep going into our next point that we kind of already touched on, but I want you to pay close attention to. How do you show love to other people naturally? Where it doesn't take much effort, you just naturally, that's how you show love to people. And I bring this one up because most people will love others in their own love language, right? So if your love language is gift giving, you love receiving gifts, that's very meaningful to you to have somebody give you a thoughtful gift. Oftentimes, you will give gifts to your spouse, your loved ones, things like that. Even if that's not their love language, it's your love language. Or acts of service. My husband's love language is acts of service. So the way he loves me is by doing things for me. He'll clean the kitchen, or he'll clean the floors, or change my baby's diapers, which, yes, I am beyond grateful for those things, but it by no means fills my love tank, because I'm like, okay, that's just part of life. That's just how this is supposed to work. And so oftentimes he verbalizes that he doesn't feel appreciated for all of the things that he's doing for me, because that doesn't stand out to me since it's not my love language. So as I'm learning his love language, I'm able to appreciate those things more because I'm understanding he's doing them out of love, not just as a responsibility like I would be doing because I hate cleaning. But that's a whole different story. But that's the whole point. We love other people oftentimes in our own love language. So that could be a key point to show you what your love language is. The same thing like we did with the last point. I want to run through some examples of what this may look like, to recognize, are any of these things that I mentioned something that you're saying or doing to your partner or for your partner? Or have you experienced this from your partner? Because that could be a clue into what their love language is as well. So let's just run through these, and always remember there may be multiple that stand out to you, but it's a matter of trying to focus on what is something that hits the nail right on the head, something that is your primary love language, right? We love everybody in all five languages. We love feeling loved in all five languages, but there's usually one, maybe a secondary one, that stands out to you the most. So we're going to start off with words of affirmation. Do you hear or do you say, I'm proud of you, to your partner or your loved one often? Do you send encouraging words or texts? You can do it. Your interview is going to go great today. I believe in you. Or maybe you're saying this to your kids. The next one is acts of service, doing chores for somebody else, for your spouse, so that they don't have to do it like my husband does for me. Offering help if you see somebody struggling, or if you just think it would be easier to help them and have multiple people that you may offer to fix problems or help problem solve with somebody. The next one is quality time, wanting to sit and talk with somebody. Like I request my husband, oh, can we just sit and talk? And he always thinks he's in trouble, even though he's not. I'm just wanting attention. Prioritizing family time. I do this a lot because I didn't have that growing up. I really try to focus on my family time. Or do you maybe feel disconnected and disappointed when people are distracted? So if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and they're on their phone, that gets to me so much. Like, you're not even listening. Yes, I am. No, you're not. But it is what it is. And where I may request some of these things from my husband, he finds them very annoying. Like, oh, can we spend 10 minutes? Da, da, da. He's like, oh, I just want to sit and watch TV. That's spending time together. And to me, that is not, because it's not quality time. But it also makes me a horrible texter. Like, suck at responding to texts or phone calls or anything like that. Because if I'm with somebody, or even just with myself and trying to be present, I am very intentionally present. I'm going to make sure that my phone is put away and that I'm present with you. And so it really bothers my husband because if I'm out with friends or family, I'm not always responding to his text because I'm being very intentionally present with whoever I'm with. We're usually too busy with my kids, anyways. So it's just a matter of what I prioritize. The next one is receiving gifts. So, do you like to give gifts to your partner? Do you love receiving surprises, birthday gifts, things like that? Or maybe you send or make your spouse's favorite coffee, or you buy them flowers, or a cute little gift, or take them out to eat because your girl loves food. That is, I say that's my love language jokingly because food is, yes, I'm a big foodie. And then also under receiving gifts or gift giving is remembering important dates. Do you remember people's birthdays? I'm really bad at this, but I also could care less about my birthday because this isn't my love language. But some people are really adamant about that. They're good at remembering dates or anniversaries or things like that. And then the last one, hugs, hand holding, cuddles, things like that. Do you do that often with your spouse? Do you crave those things? Do you go out of your way to hug on your spouse? Those can all be signs of what your love language is. How are you showing love to your spouse or your loved one every day? What comes naturally within those categories? I do want to bring up a point with this one though, that kind of ties into our first point of reflection is a lot of us have the tendency, yes, of showing love the way we were exposed to love growing up. This could be, hey, I'm showing love the way my parents showed me, but that's not always my own love language. It's just what I've been exposed to. So in that case, you have to recognize, is that, am I showing that love because that's my love language or just because that's what I know? That's what I was exposed to growing up. So an example of this is like my personal story. I always had a hard time accepting. I always thought my love language was gift giving. And I was like, wow, that's a little pretentious, I guess. Like, oh, I love receiving gifts, which there's nothing wrong with that because the whole idea behind gift giving is that somebody intentionally thought about you in order to buy you something meaningful. For me growing up, that is the love language that my mom showed me was gift giving. Even if we didn't have a lot of money, she would buy us things and think, oh, well, I bought you this. That should mean that I love you. But the issue was there was not a whole lot of thought behind it. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I really want this. Da, da, da. It would be, oh, I saw this, I bought this, da, 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 but it wouldn't necessarily be according to my needs. It would be according to her own perspective of my needs, which could still be thoughtful in her own way. She had really good intentions behind it, but I didn't receive that well. It didn't fill my love tank at all. I was like, I could care less about material things. I would rather you spend time with me. And so growing up, I've put a lot of focus and I've gotten really good at gift giving. I love making handmade things. I love seeing people's reactions if you give them something. That initially was like, oh, well, maybe that's my love language. But I realized how anxious I would get about giving people the perfect gift that, oh, I need to stay up all night to do this, or I need to buy them this. Even if I don't have the money, I'm going to struggle and put in all this money towards buying them something that they'll like because that was my bid for connection with somebody because that's all I knew about love. That's how you show somebody love, that's how you receive love. I always thought if I bought somebody and gave somebody the right gift, they would appreciate me, they would value me, they would love me, and they would recognize my intentions of love towards them. But there was so much anxiety around that and stress around that that it wasn't coming naturally. It was very forced. And I had to sit down and really reflect on, is that my love language? But I also realized whenever I receive gifts, I'm terrible at receiving gifts. I love seeing people's reactions to opening my gifts to them, but I'm so horrible. Like, I will admit I have to completely fake my reaction to things. If people give me gifts, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Da, da. Realistically, I'm like, thank you. Like, I do appreciate it. It's not that I'm unappreciative. It just doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't refill my love tank. It doesn't anything. I'm grateful, thank you. But then a lot of times too, if it's stuff that I don't need, I really don't want it. And then it becomes clutter in my house. So it's like I already buy the things that I want and need, which is already way beyond what I should do. So whenever people buy me things that I didn't ask for, it feels unnecessary. My mom is really bad about just buying and buying, and I'm like, but I really didn't need this. And then if I tell her I don't need it or don't show interest, then she gets really disappointed because I didn't react the way that she wanted me to. But I can't really force that. That's just how I feel. So I discovered that that's not actually my love language. And that's where I started reflecting more of what I was wanting from people and what I was being more intentional about showing people in my everyday, what came naturally to me. And that was quality time. It came naturally to put my phone down and want to be with people. That doesn't take any effort, there's no anxiety. So if there is something that you're doing consistently for other people that you're like, maybe that is my love language, I want you to just take an extra second to think, is that because I'm just mimicking what I was exposed to growing up, or is that genuinely what brings me satisfaction? Moving right along here, our next point of reflection to determine what your love language is paying attention to what you complain about the most, because oftentimes our complaints are unspoken emotional needs. We're not to the point of being emotionally intelligent enough to communicate our needs in a healthy way, which isn't our fault. It's based off of what we've been exposed to. If you haven't put in intentional work to learn it, you won't know it. You're emotionally immature, and that's how most of us are until you make an intentional effort to learn how to communicate maturely about your emotions. So humans naturally go towards complaining as a source of communicating our needs. But it just so happens whenever we complain, that's not always met very graciously from other people. It often comes across as an attack or offensive or just whiny sometimes. But I want you to pay attention to what you complain about the most. And even over the next week, maybe keep a little journal to think, oh, I complain about this all the time. Maybe it's not my spouse not doing something. Maybe it's something I need to learn about myself. Maybe this is my love language and I can learn more about that so I can communicate to my spouse, hey, I'd really appreciate if you did XYZ more because that is my love language, or stop doing XYZ that you may think is helpful, but it's really not. Being honest with yourself and with your spouse. Once again, I'm going to go through some examples for each love language, and I want you to keep in mind if you've said any of these to your spouse as complaints, or if your spouse has said any of these things to you, because that could be insight into what their love language is. So let's run through these. Words of affirmation, some complaints around this one is, I never hear appreciation from you or get recognized by you. You never say thank you. I feel taken advantage of or taken for granted. The next one is acts of service. I have to do everything myself. No one ever helps me. I feel so overwhelmed. And this one, which my husband says all the time because this is his love language, the house is always so messy, and I'm the only one who seems to care or clean up. And that's kind of how I discovered what my husband's love language is, because he would always complain about how messy the house was or how I wouldn't do the dishes or how everything else. But in hindsight, I realized that he was feeling unloved by me because I wasn't doing those things. Because I would leave the house messy because I was prioritizing other things in alignment with my own love language, quality time. So cleaning was very low on my priority list if I'm staying focused and spending quality time with my kids or myself. Cleaning was very low on my priority list. But it made him feel like he wasn't loved because I was still leaving all of that for him. So I wasn't thinking about him and doing them to relieve him of some stress once he got off work. The next one is quality time. Things I say all the time. You're always on your phone. We never spend any time together. You're always so busy. You work too much. You never want to do anything. The next one, physical touch. You never hug me. You feel distant. We're like roommates. And then the last one, receiving gifts, gift giving. You didn't even think of me. Like if they go to the store and didn't bring you anything back, but you would have done the same thing for them. I'm guilty of that one. I can't believe you forgot our anniversary. And I know I am personally guilty of saying so many of these things to my partner. And I had to realize like which was more important to me, which hit home the most, which would like switch my mood completely if I was having to complain about something. For example, the gift giving. If I would be like, man, you didn't even bring me anything from the store, I would say it more jokingly. It didn't really weigh me down if my husband went to the store and didn't bring me anything. But if I'm like, oh, you're always on your phone, we never spend time together, that weighs really heavy on me. So I had to start paying attention to how often and how much these complaints were weighing on me, how they were making me feel in the moment. So, yes, we may say a lot of these, especially if you are a wife on here. I know we're known to be the nagging people. We love to nag and complain and all of the things, but it's often because we're trying to communicate our emotional needs, but we haven't quite gotten to that point yet in a means of doing it in a healthy way. And as women, we're very emotional creatures, so it may come across as complaining a lot more. But that's all part of life, and hopefully that you can start tracking what you complain about the most so that you can learn to communicate your needs in a more healthy way to your spouse. Or if you are a husband watching this, maybe you can think about, what is my wife complaining about? Instead of just letting it go in one ear and out the other, try to learn something about it. Why are they complaining so much? What need is not being met for them to complain so much right now? And then moving on to our last point is listening to your inner critic, your inner voice that's not always the most uplifting, the inner voice in your head that usually attacks where you're most vulnerable, what matters most to you. And a lot of times, our inner voice can originate from childhood, which completely ties into the first point that we talked about of how you were loved as a child. Your inner critic is created based off of how your parents spoke to you, which is a whole nother topic. I could create a whole nother podcast for that. I want you to start being more aware of your inner critic and what that inner critic is saying to you, because that can also show you what your love language is. Where are you feeling most attacked? Once again, I'm going to go through some examples of what your inner critic could be saying for each of the 5 love languages. The first one being words of affirmation. Are you in your head hearing, I'm not good enough? No one is proud of me. But the positive for words of affirmation, if this is your love language, your inner critic is, I wouldn't say easy to fix, but it's easy to practice healing, because all you have to do is hear what your inner critic is saying and reverse it. So if your inner critic is saying, I'm not good enough, then you do the self affirmation, I am good enough. And the more you do it, the more you practice, the more you'll start believing it. Not so easy for the rest of them. Acts of service. Your inner critic may be saying, oh, I'm so lazy. I should be doing more. Quality time. I'm wasting time. Life is so short. I should be doing more. I'm not prioritizing what matters most. Physical touch. I'm not lovable. I feel alone. Or receiving gifts. I'm not important enough to be thought about or remembered. Do any of these resonate with you? But I also want you to take it one step further and think, if your spouse is critiquing something about you, or they're complaining about something, which may reveal their own love language, what are they complaining about that is triggering for you the most? Because oftentimes, whatever somebody's complaining about, if that really triggers you, it's because you've already been beating yourself up about this thing in your head all day long, and now somebody else is coming at you about the same thing, beating a horse when it's already down. You're like, I'm already struggling with this. I don't need you to tell me. I already feel like I'm not doing enough. I don't need you to complain and out about it because I've already beaten myself up enough internally. But most of the time, we don't know how to communicate that in a healthy way. And that's where arguments start because we're emotionally triggered and our brain shuts off because we're getting flight or fight mode because we don't understand what's going on. So you just feel offended, you get defensive, and then your critical thinking in your brain shuts off. So there's no reflection happening, there's no curiosity happening, it's just defensive. So that's why in a safe space, you have to start reflecting on these things and getting curious to learn so that in those heated moments, you will be able to respond more effectively and communicate your needs to somebody else. And in this aspect, love languages can overlap because, for example, my husband may come home and complain that the house is messy. I didn't clean enough. I didn't XYZ. And I may get triggered, even though that is from his love language acts of service. I still get very triggered because in my love language quality time, I've already been beating myself up that I'm wasting time. I'm not prioritizing the right things. I could be doing XYZ more, but I'm choosing to spend time with my kids. But it sometimes doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. But that's what's important to me in the moment. So whenever he says I'm not doing enough, it makes me feel even less than whenever I was already beating myself up about not doing enough. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. So after going through all of these points, do you have a potential idea of what your love language could be? If not, that's okay. I want you to still keep notes and keep track of each of these reflection points throughout maybe the next week. Keep a journal or notes in your phone of reflecting on how you were loved as a child. Was it fulfilling to you? Or what love did you crave more of that you didn't get enough of? Paying attention to how you love other people naturally, where it doesn't feel forced. Start paying attention to that and keeping track of it. Keep track of what you're complaining about the most. And last but not least, have an idea of what your inner critic is saying on a regular basis. All of these reflection points will help you determine what your love language is. And once you figure that out, it makes loving yourself and communicating your needs to other people so much easier because you are already fluent in that love language. You don't have to learn another language to show that kind of love. So, in our previous episodes about self love and the importance of loving yourself to refill your tank, so you're not having to depend on anybody else, you can love yourself in your own love language. And that's actually what's most fulfilling to you is loving yourself in a language that your heart understands, which I do have another podcast about that you can feel free to go watch. But it's that much easier because you already know the language. When you're married to somebody else who has a different love language, or best friends with, or your kids end up having different love languages, it makes it harder because you almost have to learn an entirely new language, learn an entirely new way of living to show them that they are loved, that you love them, and then expecting them to do the same by communicating your needs. So if you know what your love language is now, I want you to practice loving yourself in that language. I'll just run through some reminders that you can do for each love language to show yourself love for whichever love language you determined is yours. So, words of affirmation, doing positive self talk, self affirmations. Get an app on your phone, write them on your mirror. Constantly encourage yourself. You can do it. You got this. Acts of service. Do something for future you today. quality time. Prioritize self love, self care, and just spending time with yourself. Physical touch, maybe taking a hot bath or shower, wearing comfy clothes, get under a comfortable blanket, get a massage, those are the best. Gift giving, receiving gifts. Maybe buy yourself something that you've been wanting for a while. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just remember, you are worthy and you are deserving of love. If you want a better breakdown of each of these 5 love languages, please go watch my video that's all about the 5 love languages and how to practice them within your marriage and towards yourself. So, just a final point here that I want to make as we close this out is understanding love languages isn't about keeping score. It's about learning and understanding to see each other better. It's not, hey, I did XYZ for you and you're not doing this for me, but it's often because you're speaking completely different languages. When you learn how somebody else experiences love, then you can love them in a way that actually refills their love tank, that actually reaches their heart, including yourself. Learning your own love language is the first step to a journey of loving yourself and refilling your love tank on a daily basis. And it is so rewarding. But I want you to realize something very important. The people around you really do love you, and your spouse, your husband, your wife, they genuinely love you. And they may be trying to show you love, but you're just not aware of it because it's not in your language. And the same goes towards them. They may feel unappreciated and unseen, unloved, because you're loving them in your own language and not in theirs. Discovering your own love language and your loved ones' love languages will help you move from frustration to understanding, will allow you to communicate your needs more openly. You'll be able to connect on such a deeper level that you weren't able to overcome before. So, if this episode helped you understand yourself or your relationships just a little bit better, please share it with somebody else who might need to hear it. But I want to hear from you. What is your love language? Leave a comment down below. What is your love language, and which reflection point today helped you to better understand or discover your love language for the very first time? Thank you so much for being here and growing with me. I'll see you guys next time. Love you. Bye.